Hi, I'm Amy Walker, Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Dino Watt, and today we're going to be talking about overcoming objections. So when you have that patient that says, well, I don't know, I've seen braces for less elsewhere, or I'm going to have to talk to my husband first, or, you know, we're probably just not quite ready to start yet. Your team needs to know what to say. So if that's been a challenge in your office, this is going to be a great video for you. There are 4 steps to overcoming objections that I'm going to teach you today, and I want to share with you the 2 biggest faux pas that I see in overcoming objections. The first is they don't overcome objections. So what happens is they get the objection and they immediately go to, well, you know, maybe we could give you a discount. That might make it easier. What if we price match the other person? So instead of trying to overcome the objection, they just pull down. Or they just give up, right? Like they say, well, let me talk to my husband first. Okay, great. Thanks so much for coming in. It was really great having you. We hope we get to see you again soon. And they send them out the door. The second is on the other side of that. So we have they just don't overcome the objection. And then on the other side of that, we have they're combative when they overcome objections. And I think this is where all of us have gotten a bad taste in our mouth at some point or another, where one person says, you know, I just don't know if this is in the budget. I'm not sure we can afford it. And they say, okay, sure. And they just give them more information and try to talk them into it. And then they give another objection. They try to talk them into it. And then another objection, they try to talk them into it, and it leaves you as a consumer feeling like you've been pushed around, you weren't valued, you weren't listened to, and you don't really want to do business with those people anymore. So where we want to be is in the middle. We don't want to be the people who don't address the objection at all and just give up. We don't want to be the people who push and are disrespectful. We want to be in the middle. So here's your 4 steps to overcoming objections. Number 1, we are going to acknowledge what they just said. So if they say, well, I need to talk to my husband first, we're going to say, okay, so it sounds like you want your husband to be involved in this decision. And we're just going to make sure that we heard them right, and we're going to get them to claim that objection. Sometimes when somebody says something and you repeat it back to them, they'll go, well, that's not actually it. And then they'll tell you what the real objection is. But we want to make sure we got it. We've nailed down the objection. The second thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask a question. When they tell you their objection, they basically closed the door. Think of a door-to-door salesperson and they've said, no thanks, I'm not interested, and they close the door. So asking the question is going to knock on the subconscious to open them back up so that we can continue to have a productive conversation. Talking to a closed-off subconscious is very unproductive. So we're then going to ask a question. So on the spouse example, okay, so it sounds like you want to make this decision with your spouse. Is that accurate? Yes. Great. What do you think your spouse will say? And we just ask a question. Now, because we've asked a question, we're opening back up the dialogue and we're opening back up the conversation, and it allows us to move forward. So if they say, well, they'll probably be fine with it, you know, I just want to run it past them first, we'll say, okay, well, do I have permission to give you a suggestion? That's step number 3 is permission. Do I have permission to give you a suggestion? And when they say yes, because they gave us permission, now the subconscious is even more open. This is the psychology behind the sales process. So then we can go into our 4th step, which is our information. So in that scenario, we might want to say, you know, what we found works really well is if you can get your spouse on the phone and you can go over the details. That way we can give you a little bit of space. You can make that decision together. And if he comes up with any questions that you don't have the info for, you can just open the door. I'll be right here on hand to answer those. And then we can get your paperwork done today so that we can actually get your start scheduled, or we can go ahead and start right now depending on how your office runs things. So that process is really critical. Number one, acknowledge what they said. Number 2, ask a question to get that door to open back up again. Number 3, ask permission to then number 4, share with them your information. This creates a really gentle, a really respectful approach to overcoming objections that increases the level of trust and rapport and makes your clients feel like they were just treated like gold rather than feeling like they were pressured into doing something they don't need or want to do. So our job as salespeople is to help the client get what they want. And if what they truly want is a beautiful smile for their child, and they truly want to be a part of your culture and be with your office, and they love your values, then our job as salespeople is to help them get what they want. And we got to help them get those obstacles out of the way. So there you have it. Those are your tips for overcoming objections. If you've been sitting on the fence thinking, I really do kind of want some help in these areas, but I don't know if I'm ready to fully jump in all the way, and you've been kind of sitting on that fence, I'm going to give you another invitation. Let's talk. There is nothing to be lost by having a 30-minute conversation with me, and what I guarantee you will happen is you will come away with clarity around exactly what needs to be happening inside of your team. We're going to map it out, we'll break it down, and you'll walk away with a clear set of action steps. Whether you decide that you want to move forward with us or not, you will walk away with clarity. So if you've been on the fence, I encourage you to get off the fence, click on that link to my calendar, and let's meet. I look forward to supporting you and your team in creating the business and the practice that you have always dreamed of having.